Well, good morning, everyone. And once again, welcome to another live here this morning, and hope you're having a great start to your day. And as usual, I'll say hello. Naja or Naja, how are you? Andrea, Rosalinda, Nick from our staff, Mike, Francis Marie, Nativity, good morning to you. Nice to have you on with us this morning. Madeleine, bonjour. Annette, good to have you on. We appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much. Brenda, here we go. Jose, good morning to you. Jeanette and Lorraine from BC. Wow, up early. Bonjour, Zienne et Jean. And wait a minute, Nick, I think, and Maria, Bruno. We appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much for coming on. We're going to continue with the theme yesterday. Rosemary, good morning to you, and Jackie from Tirana, and Deb from Timmins, Patricia, Angele, Prince Edward County, and Sharon, good morning, Lakefield, Ontario. Sherry, thanks for coming on, guys. Much, much appreciated. We love you guys. And when I say that at the end of the show, it's because I mean it. And Doc from Tennessee, Angelina, how are you? Good to have you on with us, Doc. Our dear friend from the University of Tennessee, Dr. McEwen. We appreciate her. Okay, now, Annette, good morning to you, and Natalie. Okay, so yesterday, somebody said, Doc, I wasn't wearing socks, so how could you blow my socks off? Yeah, and you know what? I was in my sandals, so I couldn't blow my socks off. But really, when you think about it yesterday, DHA and cancer, isn't that incredible? And I invited you, if you could find this on mainstream media. Now, some of you sent me studies on omega-3. Hey, I appreciate it. I get all those studies, by the way, in a service that I use, okay? So I get all the studies. I search around, but I didn't see anything mainstream. Now, maybe there was. And again, I will invite you to mention that to me or show me, okay? Because I'd like to see if I'm wrong. But generally, even though this was groundbreaking research and very, very promising, they're going to bury it, guys. But you guys know better. You know better. And now part of my protocol, I wrote a book years ago, Are You Built for Cancer? And I can't remember if I mentioned DHA at all in that book. I love talking about omega-3 and DHA, but I can't say for sure that I wrote about that in that book. So guess what? It's now part of the Martin Clinic protocol. Now, one that you know of, and today I just want to bring this to you, is because we're going to talk about Viderma today. So you have high DHA. Wow, what it does to tumors. It's poison to tumors was the headline. But we're going to talk about something that you know very well, Viderma, vitamin D, and some new studies have come out in the last few days that I want to bring to you. Okay? Now, chronic disease, okay, I think it's important that we talk about this because when you understand this part, you'll understand what I'm going to mention, what I mentioned yesterday, and what I'm going to talk about today. But you have to understand this part first. Chronic disease is worldwide is a $40 trillion industry. Now, unless you think I'm against any kind of treatment like medications, surgery, any of that therapy, then you're misquoting me. I'm not against it. But when you think how much money, it's like follow the money, guys. A $40 trillion industry. It's huge. The pharmaceutical companies, and you've heard me say this, have hijacked, by and large, medicine. They've hijacked it. They dictate. And you guys might have, unless you're not watching the news at all, in the last few days there was a big G7 conference, and the President of the United States, our Prime Minister, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and they were all there. The big wigs in the world. And they were talking about the climate, but they were also talking about we never want another pandemic, right? To disable the world, and, good for them. But there wasn't even one mention, not even a mention, of prevention. It was all, here's what we can do. I mean, look, they talked about the vaccine. I guess that's prevention. But there was no talk of the body's innate immune system. There was no talk about everything that I brought to you over the last year and a half, and that is, these therapeutics like Viderma, the sun, vitamin D. There was no talk about that. None of it. But you have to understand, again, you have to understand what's behind the whole system is a $40 trillion industry. And you know what? Some people have said yesterday, even online on our private Facebook group, that, they don't want to find a cure for cancer. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. That they don't want to find. I think the reason they can't find it is they're looking for love in all the wrong places. I don't question people's motives when I don't know what their motives are. All I'm telling you is there's so much research on natural, but they dismiss it. It's dismissed in the mainstream media. They dismiss it. And it bothers me because there's a lot there. Now, let me give you a study that I picked up last week, and then I want to bring to you a few other things about vitamin D. Okay? Vitamin D. This is a new one on cancer, but it says this. The greater your exposure to the sun, vitamin D, the decreased rates of Hodgkin's and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Okay, this is hot off the press, guys. Okay, hot off the press. This is another one. Okay, so one on cancer, and then we're going to talk about cancer again, and vitamin D, but this is vitamin D deficiencies and addictions. This is interesting. The Massachusetts General Hospital study showed that people that were vitamin D deficient were much more likely to have addictions. Much more likely to have addictions, especially to opioids. Now that's a huge crisis in North America, guys, is opioid addiction. And again, through this whole time of emphasizing virus, we have completely missed out on mental health crisis in North America. There's a mental health crisis in North America. It's going to kill. It's going to kill many thousands of hundreds of thousands of people. And one of the curses in our society today is opioids. Opioids and addictions. And what this study is saying, it's interesting, that vitamin D, when you're deficient in vitamin D, if you're deficient in Viderma, you're much more likely to suffer from addictions, especially the addiction of opioids. Now, why do people usually get hooked on opioids? They have pain. And for some people, the first opioid they take hooks them. And they'll steal off their grandmother to stay on it. And they'll do anything they can to get another fix of these opioids. And they're very dangerous. But what the study is saying, that when you are exposed to vitamin D, there's something that happens on your skin when you get Viderma. What happens? Well, look, when you get the sun on your skin, you synthesize vitamin D. Now, there's other things. You need cholesterol, by the way, but you synthesize vitamin D. Your vitamin D levels in your serum go up as you expose yourself to the sun. That's one. Two, you create hormones. And you create endorphins. Yeah, that's why it feels so good when you're in the sun. And we've made the sun the boogeyman. Oh, it's going to give you skin cancer. We talked about that. It's going to age your skin. No, it's not. But if you understand all the good things that happen, we've talked to you in the past, that when you get Viderma, especially on the arms and the legs, 15 to 20 minutes will give you 10,000 international units. So you don't have to overdo it in the sun. And as your skin gets more used to it, you can be an hour in the sun. You do not need sunscreen. Don't put chemicals on your skin. First of all, you're not going to absorb vitamin D. And when you put a chemical on your skin and add heat, you're asking for disaster. And if sunscreens were doing their job, why is there more skin cancer today than ever before? The ozone layer, that's what they told us in the 1980s. Oh, there's no ozone layer. You need sunscreen. Brought to you by Johnson & Johnson. You should have heard me screaming even back then. You need vitamin D. Don't burn, but you need vitamin D. And we know so much more today than we used to know. I've talked to you about this whole virus thing. Isn't it amazing that in the summer it's better? True or false? It's true. It's true. The sun, it helps. What does it do to your immune system? Your T cells, in your lymphatic system, your blood cell has a little antenna for vitamin D. But you get endorphins. And when you expose yourself to the sun, you're much less likely to become an addict. Isn't that incredible? People that are addicts, they're missing something. We don't look at that so much. They're looking for a fix of endorphins, the feel-good hormones. And what do you think? They smoke? Even a person who smokes, it gives them a little fix, guys. I don't condemn that. I feel sorry for people that are addicts. I don't condemn addicts. I don't. I worked in the prison ministry for years and years and years, over 35 years, volunteering. Everybody that was in jail, I mean, almost without exception. I mean it, guys, without exception. It was 98%, I think. They're addicts. They're addicts. Who would ever thought that we should be bringing them outside and getting some sun, Viderma? Because your body naturally produces endorphins, feel-good hormones. And I've talked to you about what happens in the gut too. You got more hormones in your gut than you have in your brain. But anyway, let's not go there. Isn't that interesting? And the third thing, brought to you by the Martin Clinic, maybe a few weeks back, I can't remember. One of the things that we know about Viderma is that your immune system, your endorphins, you make melatonin. What's melatonin do? Helps you sleep. You make melatonin. Sunshine in my eyeballs make me sleepy. No, but seriously, guys, you get the sun in your eyes and your body makes melatonin. People say, Doc, should I take melatonin to sleep? Yeah, get in the sun. Get in the sun. Your eyeballs, when you see the sun, you make melatonin. What else happens? We talked about this. You make nitric oxide. The sun opens up, listen, your blood vessels. You get more circulation. You get less plaque in your arteries when you get Viderma. Oh, I wish I could patent it. The reason I use the word Viderma is because I like it. But seriously, and no one talks about it. You can't get mainstream medicine to talk about it, to acknowledge it. You can't get the media mainstream, to acknowledge it. They might every once in a while do a pass-by. I call it a pass-by. A pass-by shooting. You know, they give you a little, somebody said, but then and most physicians, not all, but most physicians are completely ignorant of the benefits of vitamin D. Ignorant. They're stuck like Elvis, who's been dead for 50 years. They can't get out of the long sideburns. You know what I'm saying? Like they just, hello? What did they say in India? When they went through this whole thing with COVID, the Indian variant, 80 to 90% of the people in India are deficient in vitamin D. My word. How can that be? I can understand it. We're in Canada. We could be deficient in vitamin D. I always tell my Florida friends, yeah, we get a summer in July, the rest of the time, But guys, you guys know better. You guys know better. And I belong to the Vitamin D Council. Okay? I don't do research on vitamin D. I just use it clinically. And I was big on therapeutic doses of vitamin D. Big time in my practice, guys. And there wasn't anybody that I didn't talk to about taking vitamin D. All the years. Okay? One of the things that vitamin D, and I just want to say this in passing. One of the things about vitamin D that I believe makes it so efficient. Tony Jr. and I, we often have powwows, and we just sit around and talk shop. And he said, Dad, vitamin D is a biomarker. It's the chicken or the egg. What comes first? And Tony Jr. said this years ago. He said, Dad, you know what vitamin D, I think its biggest action, we know what it does to the T cells. We know what it does on the skin, or at least partially. But he said that vitamin D is very anti-inflammatory. Very anti-inflammatory. That's why it's so good, Dad. And I thought about that and I said, you know what? You're right. It is very anti-inflammatory. And us at the clinic, we talk about the 3 seeds of disease, right? Insulin, too much insulin, food, leaky gut, and free radical oxidative damage. So if you look at a chart, that is the trifecta of, you name the disease and it's in one of those 3 or all 3. The next step, what comes out of that, if you have inflammation, if you have insulin resistance or leaky gut or free radical damage, you create in your body a response to that. You know what it is? It's inflammation. So vitamin D lowers the response of inflammation. Your body's response to, as we called it at the Martin Clinic, sickness without a fever. Because people used to die of viruses and bacteria before the advent of antibiotics. That was the big killer in society. It wasn't food. It wasn't food. It's food today, primarily. And a lack of sun. Dr. Cedric Garland, okay, who is one of the founding members, an epidemiologist, founding members of the Vitamin D Society, once said this. I'm going to quote him. Vitamin D, according to an epidemiologist, Dr. Cedric Garland said this, and I'm quoting him. Vitamin D would prevent 600,000 cases of breast cancer and colorectal cancer a year. 600,000 cases a year, he said, okay, I'm quoting him, would be negated just with vitamin D. Now, guys, I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever heard of that statement or even read of that statement? I mean, this guy's no dummy. He's no dummy. Imagine that. Dr. William Grant, a NASA physicist, okay, no dummy here, said this, and I'm quoting him. 50,000 American lives a year would be spared if people would get the right amounts of vitamin D. 30% of all cancer deaths would be spared, according to Dr. William Grant. He said this, I continue the quote, there would be a 50% reduction in skin cancer, prostate cancer, and lung cancer. So Dr. Cedric Garland emphasized colorectal cancer and breast cancer, ladies. And for men, William Grant said vitamin D would prevent 50% of prostate cancers and skin cancers and lung cancer. Lung cancer, by the way, is still the #1 killer in our society today. Viderma, guys. Viderma. I can't even think of something that it doesn't help. And an article in the Journal of Investigative Dermatology, just for those today who, I get it, there's so much indoctrination by doctors and the mainstream media. There's an indoctrination. Skin cancer is like this today. It's gone way up, by the way, compared to what it used to be. Okay? But more people are wearing sunscreens than ever before, using sunscreens. That's just a fact, guys. It's just a fact. And melanoma, okay? Melanoma is the deadly skin cancer. It's only 1% of all the cancers, by the way, skin cancers. Melanoma is very rare, but it's not as rare as it used to be. But when you compare it to basal cell or squamous cell carcinoma, it's 1% of those cancers, skin cancer totals, but 75% of the deaths from skin cancer are melanomas. And here's the Journal of Investigative Dermatology. Here, I'm quoting them. More indoor workers than outdoor workers suffer from melanoma. I told you that before, and I know it's undoing what the narrative is, but guys, that's just the truth. That's just the truth. So get in the sun every chance you get. Don't burn in the sun. Cover up when you've gotten your... See, I go in the sun. I was thinking yesterday afternoon, okay? The sun came out. It rained in the morning, whatever here, okay, in Sudbury. I went out yesterday afternoon. The sun came out. I get my lawn chair, a zero gravity chair that I have, and I went out there, and for about 20, 30 minutes, I just let the sun come in. And for me, when I do it, I always think of the benefits of it, okay? I'm always saying, yeah, man, look at that sunshine on my shoulder makes me happy. I'm realizing I'm getting my Viderma. I'm building my immune system. I'm increasing my nitric oxide, which is very good for blood vessels and circulation and your heart and your brain. And I'm thinking about that. I'm building my immune system. I'm my little antennas in every cell in my body, especially my T cells, are getting supercharged. I'm plugging in. It's almost like you get a battery and you plug it in. I'm recharging. That's what it does to your immune system. And then your endorphins and your melatonin, your sleep hormone. You know, I can't help it. That's the way my brain thinks. So I'm not scared of the sun. I take precaution. I don't overdo it. I'm not being silly. Right? But enjoy. It's so good for you. And I'll leave you with this. This should be the number one therapy in the world. It should be the first choice for you name the disease. It should be part of the protocol of every physician in the world. Because the world is very deficient in this Viderma. Okay, I leave it there. Okay. I get excited. I apologize for the singing. I love singing to myself. The crowd of one. Okay. If you have any questions for Friday, okay, not too early to talk about that. Question and answer, a very popular program on Fridays. Send off the questions. We're happy to answer them, okay? Number two, if you're not a member of the Martin Clinic Facebook group, there's some tremendous testimonies there, people doing the reset, and we're there to build each other up and pump each other's tires up, and there's some good things happening on that group, so invite your friends and family. Thank you again for making the reset, the book, a tremendous success, enormous success. We really appreciate that. Okay, we'll talk to you soon. Love you guys.